I want you to have the extreme of the future, a vision and clarity about where you're going and what you want, and then back out of that and say, what's the quickest win I can have today to start to move me in that direction? And you keep taking those baby steps until you get there. And you look up one day and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm here.
I'm Amy Jo Martin. Welcome to the Why Not Now show. You know that thing you've been thinking about doing? Yeah, that one. Why not now? Have you ever actually taken the time to ask yourself, what's stopping me? Let's talk it through. This is your chance to give that idea the attention it deserves and take action. Each episode, I have a chat with a fascinating person, from entrepreneurs to athletes, celebrities, my parents, rocket scientists, and all walks of life. We talk through a critical time when they've asked themselves, why not now? We dissect that day or even that moment, step by step. Just let go. Christy Wright is on the show today. She is an author. She's a Dave Ramsey Personality. She's a speaker. She has a podcast. Christy is legit when it comes to business advice. We talk through so many different things in this specific conversation about not only how to get literally from idea to action when you're in that phase of, oh, I think I know what I want to do, but what is the first step, the very first thing? But we also talk about things like competition. When those voices in your head start to give you doubts and you think, well, there are other people doing this, my idea, and what to do, how to navigate through that, a different way to think of it. Christy's a bit of a queen when it comes to setting boundaries. She talks through what she does in order to set those boundaries, the upside of them, of course, and how she asks certain questions to get to the answer that she's wanting to arrive at. Christy invited me to come and speak at one of her events last year. There were 3,500 female entrepreneurs in the audience, and they were fired up. It was really cool to see her in action. And this stage was quite possibly my favorite speaking engagement ever because the audience was so aligned with who I am too. So all of this information you're about to hear from Christy and the amazing storytelling that she has to offer with it is valuable, tangible, tactical, and that's what I'm all about. So here you go. Being able to design my own day and do it in the most efficient way is a non-negotiable for me. I'm a bit of a time management nerd, so when I find something that allows me to be more efficient and effective to get the most out of my day, I want to share it with everyone. So here's the scoop. I have a new tool in my productivity tool belt, and it's called Monday.com. My team and I have never felt more organized professionally and personally. And my to-do list is no longer the boss of me. I feel more in control because every project, initiative, date, and task is captured and organized in one place. And my team is in the loop and involved every step of the way. We are in lockstep. Monday.com is like having a brand new operating system. Everything has its own home, deadline. You can see the team members associated with the tasks, and it's color coordinated, so you can easily navigate your own task list. We all have multifaceted jobs, businesses, and lives. With Monday, you're able to keep all of these components organized in their own compartments, but you're also one click away from seeing the big picture and how they all integrate together. Creating systems and procedures within your day and business saves a lot of time. For example, my team and I have a dedicated Monday.com board for this very podcast. Did you know that there are 28 steps involved in getting one podcast ready for air? It's the same exact process every single time. And it's a system that we have put into place. So we know the various key steps are assigned to certain people, and we've mapped out the entire process from start to finish within this one board. This allows us to be streamlined. It cuts back on the amount of emails exchanged as well as the amount of meetings needed. One feature I love is that my social media content calendar is built inside of Monday.com. I finally have one that I actually use, I like, and it's embedded into my overall calendar as well. Another feature we use every single day is the Google Doc integration. You know I love a good spreadsheet. I can pull them into Monday.com and edit them right there versus having 97 tabs open on my computer, which is extremely distracting and inefficient. If how we spend our days is how we spend our lives, then I can't think of anything more important than using the time in our days wisely. Head to hey.monday.com/Amy Jo Martin to start your free trial today. That's hey.monday.com/Amy Jo Martin. Christy, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining me today.
Oh my gosh, thanks for having me. I'm so excited about this.
Likewise. Let's hop right in as we do. Can you tell me about a time when you had a big decision to make and you asked yourself, why not now?
Yes. Okay. So I'm going to give you an example that may at first glance seem like it's totally unrelatable or unrelated to business or career or anything, but I think the takeaways actually apply to all of those things. So this is a very extreme example, but being a little dramatic is one of my love languages, Amy Jo, so we're just going to go with it. So a year ago, it was exactly a year ago, my husband and I had gone on a little weekend vacation to the Panhandle, just drove down to Florida. It's like a 7.5 hour drive from Nashville. And we went down there to just get away, enjoy some warm weather. Our boys were at my in-laws a couple hours south of Nashville. And so we just went down there for a couple days. So, one of the things that my husband and I love to do whenever we go to Florida or go to the beach is we love to walk around marinas and just look at boats and just dream of boats. We're like, oh, wouldn't it be amazing someday in the far, far future, we could have a boat. That would just be the ultimate in our world. Okay. So we had actually the last 6 to 8 months before that been looking to get a new house and get something newer, a little bit bigger for our growing family. And we had saved up some money and our house had increased in value. So we had the funds to be able to upgrade a little bit, but we just weren't seeing anything we liked. We weren't seeing anything in the location we wanted. And so just before this Florida trip, we had decided to stay put. We're like, we're going to stay here. We're going to stay in our house. We'll do some things to it to make sure we love it. Maybe some new floors and that kind of thing. And so we had this savings that we had saved up. So we're down in Florida, we're looking at these boats, and we're like, let's get a boat. Yeah, this is a great idea. We should definitely get a boat. So we're just walking around the marina, looking at boats, dreaming of getting a ski boat, a good used ski boat, whatever. So this makes perfect sense in our mind. It's something that emotionally is still practical to us because we have the savings and we've decided to stay in our house. Well, then things changed. So we're driving north on 65, for anybody in the Southeast, Interstate 65. We're driving north on 65 from Florida to Tennessee, and we leave Florida with the plan and the intention to buy a boat, just a good used ski boat, no big deal. Well, as we're driving north, I get this idea because my birthday's in July. I was like, well, wouldn't it be fun if we rented an Airbnb for my birthday weekend, and then we could, my 35th birthday, then we could have the boat and people could stay the night and, da-da-da. So I'm on Airbnb. And I'm just searching houses, trying to find anything at any lake around Nashville where we could rent it out for my birthday weekend for this boat that we're certainly going to buy when we get to Nashville. Okay. So we're driving north. I'm not finding anything, not on Old Hickory Lake, not on Center Hill Lake, not on Percy Priest Lake, Timms Ford Lake, all the lakes around Nashville. They either don't have houses or they're too expensive or not, whatever. So I'm driving north and somehow, and when I say somehow, Amy Jo, I literally mean somehow, I don't know how. I went from the Airbnb app, which is obviously a rental property app, to HomeSnap, which is a real estate app that I had on my phone from when we'd been previously looking at houses. And I just start zooming in because it shows you on a map your locations. We're driving up 65. And so I just start zooming in to where we are, but zooming north. And I zoom directly, I kid you not, to this house for sale on the lake. On a lake in Alabama. It's on the Elk River, which connects to the Tennessee River. And I say to my husband, well, here's a house for sale. And he says, it's the real miracle. He goes, well, let's go look at it. Amy Jo, we pull off the interstate about 2 hours north. We call the real estate agent. This is a Sunday. We have to go by that exact way to go get our kids from the in-laws in Florence, Alabama anyway. And we go to this house and we're like, why not now?
Oh my gosh.
It's like our ultimate dream to have a lake house, but we couldn't have even conceived of this, 24 hours, 48 hours before. But the reality is when you combine our home and the lake home, it's still less than what we were prepared to upgrade to a new home, And so you just have to look at the numbers and look at your plan in life differently. And so we made an offer that night. We got it for an unbelievable steal. And then we had the greatest summer of our lives last summer playing on the lake. Of course, we bought a boat to go with our
side accessory.
we play on the lake all summer. And then in September, I kind of flipped the house for guests. I get a keypad lock and I've been Airbnb-ing it out all winter. And then that money now has obviously, it's now an investment property. Now, here's what's so interesting about this. At first glance, it seems like, oh my gosh, that's so bougie. Like you have a lake house. Oh my gosh. It's not that. What's amazing is I think so often in life we think, okay, well, now the next step is to get married. Well, now the next step is to have kids. And the next step is to make this career move and this career move. And then you have to go to these type of schools and you have to go to this type of job. And you just take the next logical step of what you see people do around you and what you think you have to do. And our two homes combined, as bougie as that sounds, it's still less than what most of my friends have paid in their homes. You just have to think of it differently. And so I think my big takeaway from the lake house, why not now moment, like we thought we'd have a lake house when we're like 60 and retired because it seemed so out of reach. And when we looked at it differently and looked at that opportunity of why not now? Like, why not when we're 35? Why can we not create our reality and our future to be whatever we want it to be today? Where we have a smaller, older house than our friends, but then we also have a lake house that we love and we get to play in that makes us money in the off season. You just think about things differently. And I think that's been a really big takeaway for me, especially when I'm coaching business owners and people at all different stages of life and business. Don't just think of the next logical step that it has to be that way. Question that and look at all your options. You always have more options than you think. And you can do something completely different. You can march to the beat of your own drum, and it might be a beat that you like a lot better anyway. So that was our crazy, extreme why not now moment where literally within 24 hours, we bought a lake house. And we're like, what are we doing?
That is a good, solid why not now moment. And when you started with boats are my love language. So I was like, oh, where's she going with this? Okay, so this is fascinating.
Yeah.
Can you
it's just a beach trip to Florida.
Can you zoom in for me? You're on your app, you're looking at the map, you're zooming in north, and you're like, well, here's the house. The moment that you're exiting the freeway or wherever you had to go in order to get to this home for sale that was randomly in your pathway, what was the discussion in the car? I mean, it sounds like your husband was all for it, first of all, which
that
the stars are aligned. Yeah.
My husband is the most practical, conservative, thrifty person. Like he's so responsible. I'm the spender. Like this is not that far-fetched for me, but for him like the fact that he said, let's go see it. I was like, what are you talking about? Like Jesus, take the wheel. Like what has just happened? Because there's no way that he would ever go for this. But I think what was so interesting is, we have I would say the feeling we felt in the car. And I would say you probably feel this in life in many different stages when you're kind of walking towards an opportunity in faith. You feel a little crazy. Are we being crazy? Is this irresponsible? Is this just stupid? Are we being crazy? Like, do we need someone to come smack us on the hand and say, don't do this, this is dumb? But we ran the numbers. We're like, we've dreamed of this our whole life. And again, Amy Jo, it goes back to that. Why not now? Like, why not? There was no reason when we had decided to stay put in our old house. We had the money in savings. The house is unbelievably affordable, still saving us money.
And generating money now, too, with Airbnb.
Right. And generating money. Like, it makes on paper perfect sense, but you get an idea in your head. Oh, that sounds so bougie. That sounds crazy. That sounds irresponsible. then I think our ideas about things can keep us locked into a very safe, small life. Mm-hmm. And I think I work with women all the time at different stages of business that deal with this, where they have a dream in their heart and they want to start a business or a side business, or they want to help people. And, they have this passion, but it sounds crazy. Mm-hmm. It sounds selfish. It sounds bougie. Like, who do you think you are to start a business? And they let their ideas about that keep them from that. And if you can be okay with that, a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of feeling crazy, a little bit of driving down the interstate to this house going, are we being crazy? If you can sit in that feeling and even let people think you're crazy for a minute, that's okay. They can think you're crazy. But if you can press through that, you can get to a reality that you realize when you get there is not crazy at all. And it's this unbelievable freedom. Like, I can't explain. All last summer, I just walked around our lake house going, I can't believe this is ours. I can't believe this is ours. Just praising God. I can't believe this is ours. Like, this is a lifelong dream come true, and I'm 35 years old. I can't believe this is ours. But it was only because we were willing to sit in the crazy and push through that to consider maybe God's plans for us are bigger than our plans for ourselves. Maybe the ideas that we had about this, that it's bougie and irresponsible, are not accurate. Maybe it's something we could do, and it's actually very practical and financially responsible because it's an investment property.
Right.
Just exactly. Past that. You have to get past the feeling that you're a little bit crazy.
Absolutely. And I kind of look at it too as a moment of bravery that you need to capitalize on. If you're on this freeway, and it's such a great literal analogy too,
I love it.
you had to exit. Would you have really turned back if you were at home at that point, or gone and went and looked at it down the road? Probably not. You had this moment of bravery that you had to capitalize on. And it was probably, that window was probably going to close.
Absolutely. And I think it's good too, because it wasn't like and I think that's, when you get out of your comfort zone, literally and figuratively, if you get into a new environment, what happens is there's new energy injected into your life, into your body, and even into your mind. And so we were open to that idea because we had just spent the last 3 days walking around marinas. Mm-hmm. We were sitting at home doing the day-to-day grind, cooking dinner, picking up dry cleaning. We wouldn't be like, hey, let's go buy a lake house. Right. That's a good idea. That would never occur to us. But to your point, that bravery was sparked, and that flame was fanned from coming from Florida, and then, let's just go look at a boat, and then let's maybe buy a boat, and then this whole thing evolved, a little bit at a time, but we were open to it because we were in a new environment. And I think that when you get outside of your regular environment, you're going to have new ideas, new creativity, new ways of looking at things that can't happen any other way. It can't happen in your day-to-day grind, in your cubicle, in your home. And so there's something really special about just getting outside of your world and letting new ideas in.
And what you said about it was the best summer ever with your family and your boys, the ROI of that. I mean,
oh my gosh.
That's just, and that you couldn't believe it was yours. This is just what an amazing story. Thank you for sharing and dissecting that a bit with me, because it's like it's one of the best, greatest examples of why not now. And it kind of goes from why not to why not now. You add that now, it's like baby step. First, let's just go look at that. Why not? Let's look at the house. What's the worst thing that could happen? And then you're pulling into the driveway and you're like, now. This is going to happen now.
That's right. But I love how you just hit on that point, because I don't want to miss that. It wasn't just that we maximized that moment of the why not now. The benefits of stepping into the why not now surpassed anything I could ever fathom. Like, it was the greatest summer, and we're on the brink now. All we talked about all winter was we can't wait till it's lake season. We can't wait to get back to the lake house. We can't wait until the water levels up. We de-winterize our boat and we're back out there. And so what's so amazing is whatever that dream is for you, it might not be a lake house. It might not be a boat. That's fine. If it's a business, if it's a different dream, if it's traveling the world or pursuing a nonprofit or doing something completely different, if you understand that the benefits way outweigh the cost and the scary feeling and the tension in that moment of why not now, then it gives you a little bit more confidence to sit in that feeling of feeling a little bit crazy and step into that, because looking back, we're like, that was the greatest decision we've ever made. And at the time, you feel crazy. But looking back, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad we did it.
Oh, love it. And eventually you get comfortable with crazy. And I think sometimes I crave a little crazy. It's like, oh, I'm not keeping people on their toes if I'm not being myself, which is a little crazy. So
Me too. If I did it once, I can do it again. Like I was a little crazy then, I can be a little crazy now. Like it's
what's
like
next? Yeah.
You got a resume of crazy. You're like, we can totally do this.
Yeah, we got this. So this is a great transition point because your entire world in business revolves around helping women, female entrepreneurs, grow their business, do what it takes to be successful. And so many people who are listening right now have this idea. They're ready to move to action. And in many cases, they probably feel stuck because they're either working the corporate job and feeling like their schedule's full or not quite sure how to navigate the transition from what they're doing now with a 9-to-5 into their dream idea with entrepreneurship. So that very first step, like what do you advise? What works for people to start to make that transition?
Yeah, I'll give you kind of two extremes because I think both are really important in the process. First, I want you to think about where you're going. So when we first have these dreams of a side business or a business or working on our own, it feels pretty blurry, and it's hard to get excited about something that's really blurry because it's like, I kind of want to do something in the craft industry. I kind of want to do something in the fitness industry. I'm not sure what or how we're going to monetize it, but I don't know. I just have this yearning to go into this space. Okay, that is a perfect starting point. But what I want you to do is I want you to visualize this dream. I want you to create a vision for the future in 3 years, 5 years, doesn't matter the time frame. I just want you to get as much clarity around it as you can. What are you doing? What does your dream future look like? What are you, what hours are you working and what business are you running? And do you have team members or is it just you? And where do you operate? And just start to think through, not in a way that feels limiting, like, oh my gosh, I have to have it all figured out. That's not the purpose of this exercise. The purpose is to get enough clarity around it that you can get excited about it. Because you can't get excited about something you can't see. In the moment you begin to see it and visualize it, then you get excited about it. You think, okay, I can see that. Now, this dream that you have may be big. It may be once it's so clear, you're like, oh my gosh, I am excited, but that feels massive and it feels impossible. I'll tell you, that's a really common feeling to have. I love using running analogies. So when I was my senior year in college, I decided to run a full marathon. I had never run more than 3 miles. Now, full marathon is 26.2 miles. Now, that's a dream I had. It sounded really exciting. It sounded impressive. It sounded like a massive challenge, but it also felt very overwhelming. How in the world would I ever run 26.2 miles? Now, that was my finish line. That was my dream, but now it felt really overwhelming and impossible. So after you visualize the future and you get some clarity around that dream, what are you doing? And, is it a business? Is it a career move? What's that next, big thing that you're excited about? Then what I want you to do is I want you to back out of that between today and that day in the future. And you're just going to create a path to get there. You're going to create a plan. And you can start with just major milestones. Like, okay, if I am currently working a full-time job that I hate, and I want to be working for myself full-time, and I want to have a clothing boutique in downtown of my city, then what's some major milestones? Let's see, number one, I'd need to be able to build this business up enough on the side that it can support me so I can quit my full-time job. I'll need a retail space. Like you kind of just put some mile markers in there that you want to hit. Maybe you start online, start from home, that type of thing. But the training analogy for the running plan, for example, would be I downloaded a running plan and it showed me on my first week, my long run was 4 miles. Well, that was just a mile longer than I'd run before. Well, then on the second week, it was 5 miles and it continued to build. And when you can see the path between where you are today and where you're going in the future, it doesn't seem so crazy. It doesn't seem so impossible. Oh, well, that's how I'm going to run 26.2 miles because each week I'm incrementally adding mileage and that doesn't seem so impossible anymore. And so what I help people do is once you visualize the future, I just help them create a plan. Now you can get a plan online, you can build it. The business boutique book is a plan. You can get plans wherever, but you just want to think through some of the major steps. But I'll tell you the best starting point. So if that's your finish line, if your vision of the future is your finish line, that's your full marathon, then what I want you to do is I want you to back out of that and think, what is the quickest win that you can do today? What's the lowest hanging fruit? What's the babyest baby step that you could take today in that direction. Maybe it's a Google search to see if businesses like that already exist. Maybe it's a Google search to see if there are open positions in that industry or with that company that you want to be with. It is something so small and so unimpressive that it's easy to dismiss it because you think, well, what difference could that make? But here's what's so amazing about this journey, and I know you see this, Amy Jo, with everyone you work with. That first baby step, when you take it, when you get that quick win with the lowest hanging fruit, it gives you confidence and momentum to take the second baby step and the third baby step, which leads to an interview. And then it leads to, calling your city council to see about a business license. You're the county clerk. It becomes this snowball. And then you look up one day, you're running 16 miles on your weekend. You're going, oh my gosh, I'm doing this thing. But it didn't happen with one terrifying leap where you went from your full-time job that you hate and then the next day you're living your dream job. It was made up of these tiny incremental baby steps that got you to where you are. And I remind people all the time, the impressive things in life always start as unimpressive things. They start as baby steps. They start as a card table in your living room. It starts with coffee with the right person to make that connection and that relationship. And so when I say I want you to have those two extremes, that's what I mean. I want you to have the extreme of the future, of vision and clarity about where you're going and what you want, and visualize that. And then back out of that and say, what's the quickest win I can have today? What's the baby step, the lowest hanging fruit that I can take today to start to move me in that direction? And you keep taking those baby steps until you get there. And you look up one day and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm doing it. I'm here.
Love it. And it's interesting because I wanted to talk to you about goal setting. And you basically just went right there to do not set a goal without taking action on something right then and there to get that momentum, to get that confidence, like you said, because it becomes the new normal, right? All of a sudden you're not shocked anymore that this is actually working out the way you want it because you're putting motion into place.
Some of your goals are not impressive. I think that this social media world makes us glamorize all the beautiful parts of our lives and our businesses as if it's all just big stages and success and all that. But you and I both know it's a grind. It's 4 a.m. drives in a rental car by yourself to the airport to get the flight. It's, late nights up writing and editing. There's a lot of grind that leads to that success, that leads to that really cool Instagrammable stuff. And I love the quote by Pastor Craig Rochelle. He says, it's the small things behind the scenes that no one ever sees that leads to the big things that everyone wants. And I use the example of running as well. It's like, it's easy to see people, these amazing Olympians crossing the finish line. It's like, you don't know about the 4 a.m. runs that they did. You don't know about the ice baths and the strict diet and the, unbelievable miles that they put in that led to that finish line. And so it's so easy in our world of social media to glamorize the finish line, but we dismiss what it took to get there. Mm-hmm. And so there will be fun highlights. There will be big stages. There'll be moments that you pinch yourself and go, oh my gosh, I can't believe I got to talk to that person or have that opportunity, which is awesome. But for every one of those, there's a lot of day-to-day grind that you put in because you put in the blood, sweat, and tears behind the scenes to make the thing happen. And that's okay. Don't dismiss that. I love how the Bible says, don't diminish small beginnings, because all of those things are necessary for you to get to where you want to be.
We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. Hi, everyone. If you are digging this podcast, please do us a favor and subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes. It just takes a moment and it means a ton to us. It's interesting. I think back to your Business Boutique event, and I am so grateful to have had the opportunity to speak at Christy's event last November in Nashville. And it was such an eye-opener to me. I'm beyond grateful. You had, 3,500 women there, all female entrepreneurs. This place was lit up with energy. And that is one of the moments where I realized so crystal clearly that this is my audience. This is what lights me up, and this is who I'm the most passionate about. And you told a story that day about, it was one of your running stories, but it was around the topic of competition and this woman with the rainbow shorts in front of you. Yes. I would love if you would share that, because I often hear people saying, I have this idea, but I think so-and-so's already doing it, or I searched and I see people doing this on Instagram all the time. And my response is, there's no room for you to do what everyone else is doing or what anyone else is doing. There's only room for you to do it your way.
Right.
And you had just a take on competition and level setting that I thought was such a good story. So if you could, we want to hear about the Rainbow Shorts Lady.
Well, the Rainbow Shorts Lady has a funny twist to the story, too, because apparently my Southern accent made everyone think that I was cussing every time I talked about her. So let me just... So I did a triathlon. This was, my husband and I like to do races. We did a lot more before we had kids, but it was a sprint triathlon. This was about, 5 years ago or something like that. And when you do a triathlon, they mark your age and your category on your calf and your arm. So they mark you with markers so you can kind of see if it's a relay team or if it's, if it's someone your age group or whatever. And this particular day, they had different events. They had the triathlon where you swim, then bike, then run. And they also had the duathlon where you just run and then bike and then run. And so on this particular day, I was just doing the duathlon, the run, bike, run. And so anyway, the whole race, I was about, maybe 40 yards behind this girl in tie-dye shorts. Now, when I was on stage, everyone thought I said tight ass. Tie-dye shorts. Because I'm so country. Tie-dye. I was trying to say tie-dye or tie-dye shorts. So I'm just behind this girl in the tie-dye shorts, and I'm like, I can get her. I'm pretty competitive anyway. So I'm like, her age was in my age bracket. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I can get her. I know if I get ahead of her, and I thought we were pretty close to the front of our age group, I might be able to place. I just wanted to place. I just wanted to place in my age group. That's all I wanted. They only take the top 3 in your age group. And so I'm like, I'm just the whole race. I can see her in those tie-dye shorts. I'm like, I've got to get her. So I'm trying so hard to catch up with her. I'm giving it all I've got. By the very end, she's still picking up her pace. She's still sprinting, and I can't catch her. She crosses the finish line, and, a few seconds later, I crossed the finish line. I couldn't catch her, and I was so bummed. And I went into the award ceremony knowing I probably wasn't going to place because I didn't catch the girl in the tie-dye shorts. And I sat there, and they went through all the categories in the triathlon, and then they went through all the categories in the duathlon. And when they got to the duathlon, they said the age group categories, and I didn't place. And then they went to overall, and they said first overall female, and it was me. And I won first overall female because I was in a different event. She had been a triathlon. And I was a duathlon. She wasn't even my competition. And that was my big takeaway for the ladies in the audience. So often we are chasing the woman in the tie-dye shorts.
Tight-ass or tie-dyed, whichever you want.
Let's be honest, they were both. We are chasing her down. We are comparing ourselves to her. We're comparing ourselves to her on social media, to her amount of followers, to how cute her booth looks at the craft fair. We're always comparing ourselves to her, and we don't realize she's not even our competition. And we're we're living our lives thinking that we're falling behind, and we're not even competing against her. And so I think we have a real disconnect between what's our competition and what's not. But you said something a second ago, Amy Jo, that I just want to tack on to, because I got this question, the question you started with of what if someone's already doing it? I got this question at every single coaching session I've ever done, at every single book signing I've ever done. This question comes up again and again. And I just want to encourage your listeners with one specific story that can hopefully drive this home as well. So I did book tour in 2017 for my book Business Boutique, and we would do a book signing, and then we'd have a little coaching session where people just ask questions. And I got this question every time. What do I do if someone's already doing it? What do I do if someone's already in my space? They're already doing the type of thing that I want to do. And here was my answer to them, and it's my answer to your listeners that may be thinking or feeling this. I said to them in this bookstore, I said, look around this bookstore. We're standing in Barnes & Noble or Books A Million, different chain stores all over the country. I said, look around this bookstore. How many books are in here? Hundreds of thousands, maybe 1 million. Yet you're standing here holding mine. Now, why is that? My book is not the best book out there. It's certainly not the only business book out there. But you're standing here holding mine. Why is that? I said, because I believe that there's a group of people that only I can help in the way that I can help them. And the same is true for you. It doesn't matter if there are hundreds of thousands or millions of books in your bookstore or the thing that you're doing. No one can do what you can do like you can do it. No one has your unique voice and style and perspective and story and experience that you bring to the work that you do. There is room for you too. There's room for you in the marketplace to be you, because no one can be you like you. And no one can do what you can do like you can do it. And so I just use that as a word of encouragement because, yes, there are tons of books out there, but I think that God has a place for me, and I think God has a place for you. I think God has a place for women. He's placed a dream in their heart, and I believe it's a plan and a dream that they need to step into. We need you to. We need what only you can bring to this world.
Absolutely. And that's our genius, right? It's where we not only we want to be living in that intersection where purpose, passion, skill collide in that juicy sweet spot, but that's where we're at of service. That's where we actually are able to make our impact and why we're on this earth.
So you know that, then you can take your eyes off the girl in the tie-dye shorts and just do your thing, run your race.
Yeah, yeah. Your own, yeah, absolutely. I just love that story. So let's talk creating boundaries and keeping boundaries a little bit, because I know that's something that you talk a lot about. And in order to actually achieve the things that you want to achieve, even starting with the babiest of baby steps, you have to create some boundaries for that space and time to do so.
Yeah, I think I speak on this a lot because it's so hard for me. I'm like a lot of people. I want to do all the things. I want to say yes. I think everything is a good idea. And, I have a tendency to have major case of FOMO, a fear of missing out. So I'm always want to say yes to every opportunity and edit every person's book and help every person. And the reality is, I love the quote. I think it's Andy Stanley that said, he said, the reality is the more successful you become, the less accessible you become. So 10 years ago, I did one-on-one coaching, and I don't do that anymore because I can't scale that and help as many people as I want to help and make as much of an impact. So you have to be more selective with your time. You have to be more intentional with your boundaries because everyone, has an idea of what they think you should be doing, and your time is finite. Like, you don't get more time. You just have more demands, more opportunities, but you have no more time. And so that means that you have to be super selective about how you use it. I was eating lunch at Subway today, and they didn't give me any napkins. And I went back and I was like, "Hi, can I have some napkins?" She goes, "We put them in your bag." And I was like, "Well, actually, I didn't get any in my bag, so I was just wondering if I could have one." She was like, "Oh, okay, well, I guess they forgot." And I was like, "Yeah, Subway is so stinking stingy with their napkins. I need to be as selective with how I use my time as Subway is with how they use their napkins." They were so stinking stingy with their napkins. I'm like, why am I not that careful with my time, which is so much more valuable? So I think you just have to realize how valuable it is because you only get 24 hours in a day. You can't get a minute more. You can get more money. You can buy more stuff. You can get more friends. You can get more of anything in this world that you want except time. You can't get a minute more than anyone else. And so it just becomes something that when we realize how finite it is, we realize how valuable it is. And then to your point, we put boundaries around it. So one of the things that is absolutely essential to setting boundaries, to being successful, to living your dream, to reaching your goals, to living a life that you love, one of the things that is absolutely a non-negotiable is the ability to say no. And you have to do it. You've got to get good at it. You have to practice it. You have to be willing to say no to things that are not right for you, to things that, you're disappointing some people, but you're disappointing the right people. Because if not, you will live your entire life for everyone else. And, one of the things that my mom used to tell me growing up, she's like, "Christy, just because you can do something does not mean that you should. Mm-hmm. Just because someone needs you doesn't obligate you." And when we miss that, when we think, I don't know about you, Amy Jo, but I used to, when someone asked me to do something, let's say, come volunteer for this charity, whatever. If there was free time on my calendar, I said yes. Those are the only questions I asked myself. Do they need me? Yes, because they're asking. And can I physically do this? Is there space on my calendar? Yeah. Then the answer was yes. Mm-hmm. I never asked myself any other criteria, which meant my entire calendar was absolutely jam full every waking second for someone else. Their priorities for me, not my priorities for myself. And so I just started asking myself different questions. Is this a priority to me? Is this in line with my goals? How will this affect my family? Do I want to do it? That's a great question to ask yourself. Do I want to do this? Mm-hmm. And when you start to ask yourself those questions and you might come up with the answer, no, I don't want to do this. This is not a priority. This is not right for me. Then what I encourage people to do is to come up with a way to say no that is kind and true to them. You don't have to be mean. You don't have to be rude, but you do need to be able to decline the opportunity in a way that is firm and confident. And I'll tell you, my husband does this all the time. I use this example whenever I have a new wild idea, because I got new ideas every 5 seconds. He will do it kind of like the criticism sandwich, where he'll say something nice and then decline and then say something nice.
I love that criticism sandwich. Okay.
Yeah. Like, babe, I've got this great idea. We should totally remodel our entire downstairs. And he'll be like, wow, that is interesting. We don't have any more money or time in this, in our bandwidth right now for a project like that. But I love that you are just being creative. The answer is still the same. It's a hard no. He was very nice about it. He never said the word, but the answer is no.
Oh, how graceful. The criticism sandwich. Oh my gosh, great.
Love it. So I tell people a lot of times that saying no is like a muscle. So if you never do it, then of course, the first time you lift those weights, it feels a little awkward, a little wobbly. That's okay. The more you practice it, the easier it becomes. And eventually it kind of feels good. Like you feel more powerful, like you actually have a say in your own life. Imagine that. It's your time. And so you don't just have the right to protect it, you have the responsibility to protect it, because no one can do that for you. If you don't protect what matters to you, no one can do that for you. And so I think the skill that you develop of saying no, whether you practice in front of your mirror or in front of your dog, or you script it ahead of time, whatever you need to do to work on this skill to strengthen that muscle is vital to your ability to set boundaries and be successful in the things that are actually important to you.
100%. And it's amazing how we feel like we need to offer up so much more information after we say no, a why, because of this, because of that. And one of my favorite things to share, just tip-wise, a little hack is that, no thank you gracefully, however you want to say that, I have another commitment. And that commitment could be you reading a book in the bathtub if you want.
Like, oh, it's great.
Yeah. It's like, no, you are your commitment and what you want to do with your own time. So you don't have to have something else on the schedule. That's such a good point you make in order not to say no.
Reminding people that no is a complete sentence. Like you don't have to justify it. And if you act like you have something to be sorry for, then people are going to think you have something to be sorry for. But if you hold your head high and you smile and you say it with kindness, like, no, I don't think so this time. Thanks for thinking of me. Then that communicates that's the end of the discussion.
Yep, over.
Like, oh, well, I wish I could. Maybe next time. Well, I don't know. Well, send me an email. Well, maybe, it's like just for you to realize you don't owe anyone else an apology. And, I'm a straight shooter. I'm an 8 on the Enneagram. I'm all about honesty, like just shoot me straight, But the thing that I think is really helpful is remembering that an honest no is always better than dishonest yes. If you know you want to say no, then don't say yes and try to wriggle out of it later. Your word means something. So just say what you mean and mean what you say. Say no the first time. And it's really not about saying no anyway, is it? It's about saying yes to what matters to you. Yeah. And to your point, it might be you. It might be Ben and Jerry's on the couch. It might be reading a good book. It doesn't matter. It's about saying yes to what's most important to you.
Love it. Absolutely. So you have just recently shared some huge news, and it's actually unfolding. So this news has legs, literally. You're going to become a mom again. So this will be your third. And guide me, Judge. I would love some thoughts here. This is not your first rodeo, yet you're obviously, like so many other women, extremely busy, extremely driven. You've navigated this transition before, whether we just focus on on maternity leave, or if it's thereafter. What has worked for you best during these transitions?
Okay, I'll give you 2 that have been vital to me. That I could give you a long list, but let me just keep it to 2 because you and I could talk all day. One is ask for help and accept help. Like if your husband doesn't diaper the baby the way that you want him to diaper the baby, you can offer suggestions, but at the end of the day, if the baby has a diaper on, like let it go. So ask for help when you need it. Ask for what you need. Don't try to be a super woman and then be resentful when you're doing all the things, but you never asked for the help that you needed. So be willing to ask for the help that you need. But then when people do help and they do show up and they diaper the baby and they fold the towels and they do the things, let them do it their way. Don't criticize and feel like, well, they're not doing it the way that I do it. I know that's a challenge, but your time is finite. And when you're a new mom or you're a mom of multiple kids, your time is more and more finite. There's only so much of you to go around. And so you have to be willing to share the burden and share the load with other people, even if they do it so much more imperfectly than you would. You have to be willing to accept that help. So I think accepting help for every, time I'm on the road, for every time I'm sick or I'm, in a book launch or something big is going on. My husband is an unbelievable teammate. He is a partner. He is in it with me. Like he is an amazing dad. And we've worked on that intentionally. It's not like, that just happens accidentally. We talk about responsibilities and roles and what we both need to be successful at home and in our careers. And so I think my mom lives 3 miles down the road. We have an unbelievable nanny. That's our child care program, is our boys stay at home with a nanny. And my in-laws, we just have a lot of people that I'm willing to ask for help and they're willing to show up and help and they're happy to help. We don't take advantage of that. But when I'm out of town, of course, my in-laws would rather see the grandkids than go stay with a babysitter. So I think help is really key. And then I'll tell you, this is a really simple tactic, but it has changed my life. And I experienced this with my first son, Carter. So the very first time that you drop off your child at daycare, if you ever do daycare, it is a emotional, heart-wrenching experience. Like you're dropping off your child, even if intellectually the child is fine, like something in you feels like it's just being ripped apart. Now, I remember walking in that first day with Carter and I'm just a mess. He's 4 months old. I'm going back to work and I'm just torn to pieces. And there are other moms strolling in there, dropping off their babies and they don't think twice. And I'm like, this must get easier. But today it feels very hard. So the first day is just very hard. So I'm leaving daycare because my kids used to be in daycare. And so I'm leaving daycare and I'm driving back to work and I'm just crying, like tears just streaming down my face. And all I can think about is Carter. Is he okay? Does he need me? Is he scared? Will they take care of him? Will they watch him? Will they give him his bottle when he's supposed to have his bottle? And my whole mind and heart and soul was with Carter. It was in a car driving to work, but everything about me was with Carter. And I felt God say, remember that what you're doing is important. And I felt God talking about where I was driving to, the work that I was doing. And when I started to think about that, I thought, wow, the work that I do is important. I love that I get to use my gifts. I love that I get to help people. I love that I get to make a difference. And it was this moment of realizing that I was driving towards work, looking in the rearview mirror of what I was leaving behind. And that was pivotal for me because I have realized that, Amy Jo, is the root of all mom guilt in my life. I could be right now on this call with you and thinking about, are Carter and Conley okay? I just took Conley to the doctor. I don't know if he's going to need to have that follow-up appointment and he wasn't feeling right this morning. I could be totally thinking about Conley and I would miss everything about this moment with you. Mm-hmm. And then I could go home and be with my kids, but I didn't catch up on that email. Oh my gosh, I don't know if I gave Amy Jo good answers for her podcast. And everywhere you are, you're thinking about where you're not. And if you would live your entire life, when you're at work, you're thinking about your kids. When you're with your kids, you're thinking about work. If you live your entire life perpetually looking through the rearview mirror of what you're leaving behind, of course you feel guilty because you're always focusing on where you're not. You're always focusing on what you're not doing. And so for me, it was flipping a switch. Instead of spending my life looking in the rearview mirror, I'm going to look through the front windshield. I'm going to focus on where I am. Be where your feet are. And so right now, I'm on this call with you and I'm not thinking about my kids. They're fine. They're taken care of. I'm hanging out. I love getting to connect with you. You're a friend of mine. We had a blast at the Business Boutique event. I can't wait to think about what other things we could do together in the future. And I'm fully here with you. But when I go home tonight, I'm not going to be thinking about you or your listeners. I'm going to be thinking about my kids. And so it's not as simple as compartmentalizing, but it really is choosing to be present in the moment that you're in. Because if you're not, man, you miss your whole stinking life. You miss your whole life. Every moment at work, you're thinking about your kids feeling guilty. Every moment at home, you're thinking about work feeling guilty. You're always feeling guilty and you're missing every moment. So instead, I just chose to flip the script, flip the switch. And instead of looking in the rearview mirror, I'm always looking through the front windshield. I'm going to be where my feet are. And that helps me be present in the moment that I'm in and enjoy those moments when I'm at work and also enjoy those moments when I'm at home.
So good. So good. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's a game changer for me. That really is. And I'll be curious once your little one is here, because we have so many emotions around it. It's not as simple as like, it's just like every day's easy. But gosh, like just, for just if you have a dream in your heart to do something outside the home, then you've got to find a way to cope with leaving your kids because you're going to leave them. That's just a reality.
Mm-hmm. Well, congratulations to you as well for this addition.
Thank you.
And I'm sure they're going to enjoy the lake house and growing up on the boat in the summer. It's so fun. Absolutely fun. 2 last questions for you. 1, what lesson have you found yourself needing to learn over and over?
I feel like so many. Apparently, I'm a student. I will say this, just giving up control. I'm a go-getter. I'm a mover. I'm a shaker. If I want something, I make a plan. I go make it happen. And that's not possible in every single thing in life. Sometimes you have to give up control. Sometimes you have to trust other people. Sometimes you have to know that you can't control that thing. And so I think realizing that I don't actually control the universe has been a hard lesson I have to learn again and again. So that one. And then I would say similar to that, I think I struggle with pride. I don't have pride in the sense of I think I'm better than anyone else, but I have pride in my work. I'm pride in I'm so hardworking. Well, I can do this. Well, I can, and there are just so many moments where I feel like God is humbling me to just, realize that a lot of what happens in my life is not just my hard work. It's a lot of people helping me and a lot of people that come alongside me. And so I just have always, if anybody's familiar with the Enneagram, 8s are very self-reliant. And it's like, I've learned in life that I've got to do it myself and, go for it. And so I think there's a good side to that because, man, you get things done and you make things happen, but there needs to be a softening of that, of trusting others and letting others in and letting others help you. And, and so I think that's something that I have to learn again and again and again.
I hear you on that one for sure. And what advice, Christy, would you give to your younger self?
This is so simple, but you're so much cuter than you think you are. Like, you know what I mean? Like at every stage you think oh, I've got wrinkles and oh, I need to lose this weight or fix this. Like at every stage you're so much cuter than you think you are. Like you're not as, I just think I think when we're 60, we're going to look back and be like, oh my gosh, I was so cute in my 30s and 40s. Mm-hmm. And when we're in our 30s, we're like, oh my gosh, look at my crow's feet. I wish I was 16. And when you're 16, you're like, oh my gosh, I wish I had bigger boobs. And it's like you're always wanting something you don't have. It's like, I just wish I could tell her, just enjoy the things that you have. Enjoy where you are. Enjoy this, again, just enjoy the season you're in. I'm always wanting the next season. I'm wanting the next big thing. I'm so goal oriented that sometimes I miss the beauty in the now because I'm always focused on the next. And so I think if I just slow down and enjoy the now.
Oh, that's so good. And those words would have resonated with so many versions of our younger selves, just literally as simple as that. And you look back at those pictures and it's like, man, I wish I would have enjoyed that.
Yeah, how great my skin was at the time.
But I remember feeling too much this or that or whatever. Oh, where can everybody keep in touch and follow your journey? What's the best way for them to be right there with you?
Yeah, thank you. Well, Instagram's probably what I use the most, and that's Christy B. Wright, Christy, B as in boy, WRIGHT. And then businessboutique.com is where you can find out anything that you want from the Business Boutique podcast to the Business Boutique book, the Business Boutique Academy, our courses, our blogs, anything to help you start or grow your side business or small business. That's really what we're all about, equipping women to make money doing what they love. So businessboutique.com is a great resource site. But if you want to just keep up with me and all my shenanigans, then Instagram's probably the best place.
Absolutely. I love following you on Insta. And thank you so much, not only for this, but the work that you're doing. It's so important. And there's just so much value that you have to offer. So I am grateful, and I know many other people are too. So thanks for your time and wisdom.
Oh my gosh, thanks for having me. I'm such a huge fan of you, Amy Jo, all you've done and how much you've supported me and Business Boutique. And so we are kindred spirits in this space. Anything I could ever do for you, I'm here. I'm so grateful.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to the show. Hit me up on social media to let me know what you think. I'm at Amy Jo Martin on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And I want to hear your Why Not Now moments so I can share them on the show. Just send me a note to whynotnow@amyjomartin.com. For show notes and other offers, you can visit amyjomartin.com/whynotnow. And while you're there, don't forget to sign up for my email newsletter for exclusive content and announcements. A big thanks to Rock Salt Music for all of the tunes by the talented John Coggins. And of course, a hat tip to Richard Gruer for editing and producing the show. I'll see you next time. And until then, why not now?